Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. I am Afefe with Touch by Tarot. I am an intuitive tarot reader and I am on here today. I want to do a quick look at the Supreme Court. This is very often I do, and I will do a pick a card reading for the new moon and full moon and just some other things. We've got some incredible astrological transits coming up. Pluto in Aquarius is going to be really, really powerful. So I'm going to do a pick a card on that in the next couple of days. But I wanted to get on here politically and check in with you all on the Supreme Court, which has been really, really in the news this week because there are several cases, really important cases that they have decided to hear. I want to check in and go to Spirit and see what the outcome is going to be on as it stands right now. We know energy can always change, but with so much coming up regarding the Supreme Court. So let's see. We've got the fake electors who apparently they've raised the questions around what exactly constitutes obstruction, right? Interesting that's made it and they've accepted, the court has accepted the case. But in any event, I think what's happened is, the numbers are up to around like 300 and something, I think, nationwide. Fake electors who have either been sentenced or certainly are being prosecuted because of their role in trying to overthrow the 2020 election. And we know that Donald Trump's camp is extremely interested in the outcome of that. So even though this doesn't pertain to Trump in particular, his involvement in obstruction of the 2020 election. Hello, right? But anyway, it's interesting to see, what the Supreme Court is going to do regarding that. And if, in fact, they're going to find some interesting way to reinterpret the law so that some of these people who are being prosecuted certainly can get off. And that would set the tone for what may or may not happen in regards to the 2024 election. So let's see what Spirit says in regards to how will the Supreme Court handle and what is the likely outcome of this fake electors case. I have the long road, so it's going to go on for a while. I'm using a Lenormand deck, by the way. So we've got a long road ahead, meaning it's going to be protracted. They're not going to. I think the word is that we could get some decisions from the Supreme Court around their session ends in the summer of 2024, so sometime by June of 2024. Long road meaning they've got their work cut out for them to try and figure out a way to switch the law in their favor should the Supreme Court justices go that route. Would we not be surprised given the makeup of the court as it stands? So that bear looks like they're going to be really, because they understand the long-term implications of this and they understand that it goes as far and as wide as Trump. So that bear, they're going to really try to work their way around how on earth to protect these people. Very interesting. It's already really skewed. And they are going to find a way to change it. They're going to find a way to tweak that law. So in other words, Spirit, is this coming out in favor of the obstructionists, of the fake electors? Is the Supreme Court going to find a way to come out in favor of them? I think they are, you all. Get together. I think they're going to find a way to tweak that law because they're thinking long term. Coney Barrett is going to be important in this. Kavanaugh is going to be important in this decision. Roberts, of course, we already know how Clarence Thomas is going to, how he's going to go. Yeah, and the son. Yes, I think they're going to, sad to say, but I think they are going to find a way to tweak that law so that obstruction is somehow defined in a way that lessens the impact on those who chose to join in on the January 6th riots. Interesting. All right, moving on. My second question is, as many of you know, the Supreme Court has agreed to take Jack Smith's case and request to, which many people have said was absolutely brilliant for him to just leapfrog ahead of Trump and say, put the question out there and the issue around immunity. Is there such a thing as presidential immunity, which would protect Trump from being prosecuted in the election interference case, the federal case. And let's see how that's going to look. How will the Supreme Court rule on Jack Smith's case around presidential immunity? How will that come out? The case around presidential immunity. I have deep thoughts. Lots of arguing back and forth. This will not be a unanimous decision. This is going to be a split decision. The moon, they recognize the historic import of it, and the coffin. No, not gonna. They're not going to. That's not going to go Trump's way. They are going to. They recognize the long-term implications of that with the moon. The moon is about. It's going to show up. It's going to be a landmark decision, and it is. So many people are really looking at this in terms of the foundation of our democracy and the foundation of how the Supreme Court rules. And a ring, yeah, they're gonna stay committed to the Constitution on this one. So the immunity, Jack Smith's gonna come out pretty good on that one. And that's going to be an ouchie for Trump and his camp, because that's not going to hold up. There is no presidential immunity. It runs so counter and so far in the face of, what the founders intended. And even though there are lots of arguments being made and perhaps, and should be made at this point in terms of still holding to something that is, hundreds of years old in the face of how much our society has changed and whether some of those things need to get, rewritten and reconsidered. But that ain't going to happen right now. They're going to hold on to the Constitution as it stands right now and no presidential immunity. All right. Third thing I want to look at is this ruling that the Supreme Court is going to make regarding access to the abortion pill, mifepristone. Now, here's what's interesting. In the wake of Dobbs, a lot of people seem to think, well, it's a slam dunk, it's a no-brainer. Of course, they're going to rule against access to the abortion pill, mifepristone, because look what they did. They dismantled Roe v. Wade in the Dobbs decision. So it's almost some people are saying it's almost a no-brainer. Crossroads Wealth, they're going to look at the money involved and the news that's being handed down, that they will hand down with the letter. Is the letter going to show, is there going to be a partial restriction, an anchor, they're going to hold fast to it? They're going to play double Dutch on this. I'm calling it double Dutch. But I'm looking at an anchor and murky thoughts. They want the decision to stick but they're trying to figure out, they will try to figure out the best way to make it not seem as prejudicial against freedoms. They're going to put it back to the states, and they're going to find a way to make it, the drug will still be accessible, but there will be limits on federal programs or federal accessibility. They're going to really try and throw that back at the states. And so even states who have not banned abortions or do not have these, ridiculous, 6-week abortion bans, etc. For those states that do allow it, they're still going to have access to it, but it may have to be more through private prescriptions, etc. There won't be as many. They're going to come down on the federal access to it. And I don't think they're going to eliminate it. They're not going to go that far with the FDA, since it has been proven a very effective drug and treatment for those who either choose or have to, through a medical situation, to terminate a pregnancy. But they are going, they're definitely, I got the chariot. They're going to punt that back and try to, they're going to tweak it to make conservatives happy. So they're going to find some ways, if there are federal programs that have historically made mifepristone free or more easily accessible through federal programs, that's going to tighten up, but there still will be access to it. They're not going to try and shut that down completely. Yeah, and you know, because the thing is, when I first heard the news, and I'm sure many of you, I was like, ooh, they are really treading on thin ice, because already we know that women, you know, across the board, regardless of political beliefs, both parties, this is an overwhelming issue where women do feel the need to protect reproductive rights, especially when it comes, you know, with the whole Kate Cox. You know, our hearts go out to her, but she really helped many women know that it's you know, they must stand up. We must keep this issue at the forefront nationwide. Women are not going to back down from this. This is going to probably go on some more state ballots for sure, as it should, as Ohio did, you know, and codify it, make it a part of a state constitution. We'll see how many other states are able to do that. But from the Supreme Court's aspect, they're going to make it a little less available, but they're not going to try and come down with a full hammer and just yank it and say no, it's not safe, or you know, it shouldn't be widely available. All right. And the last thing I wanted to look at, you know, there are increasing calls for, with all of these important cases now going to the Supreme Court for the next session, there's increasing calls for Clarence Thomas to dip out on some of these and recuse himself, because we know, especially regarding the fake electors decision and even presidential immunity, we know that Jenny was right in the thick of it. She probably, you know, for entertainment purposes only, but you know, wouldn't be surprised if there were video of her somewhere out there at some point in time. You know, and I'm being sarcastic with that, but we do know, it has been, you know, it's known, it is factual that she had some involvement in the planning and the January 6th riots. And so people are like, you know, come on, like, how is this happening that Clarence is still, you know, able to weigh in on these topics that clearly on the home front, we know how it's happening in your house. All right. So I'm looking at Clarence. He comes right up. Will he recuse himself from any of these milestone decisions? Of course not. Of course not. I've got the long road and a child. Yeah, he sees it as an opportunity for him to be heard. And he's not. He's just pompous enough and egotistical enough to think that regardless, that Jenny, somehow, some way he can claim, or people will understand that Jenny's politics and his politics were or are separate, and that he's able to, yeah, he's absolutely gonna stick to his guns and say he's perfectly capable of weighing in on these decisions despite Jenny's involvement. Yeah, 100%. He's going to work his way around it. He will not recuse himself, and unless he makes another slip up, you know, unless something else can come out around Jenny, something really, really just that somehow ties Clarence more closely to it, we're not going to see him back down off of that. All right, you all. That's what I'm getting on the Supreme Court. These new cases that are coming in front of them in the next session, and we'll see between January and June. Nothing's going to happen. We know that part of this too is meant to slow down the trials that are. Jack Smith did this so that he could be able to go ahead in March. Spirit, will the Supreme Court rule in regards to Jack Smith's case, the immunity charge, in time for the trial to still go forward in March of 2024? Will Jack Smith's trial against Donald Trump go forward in March of 2024? No, it's gonna slow it down a little bit. I'm seeing it maybe get pushed to around April. Not a huge setback, but it does look like the timetable is going to get slowed down a little bit. Yeah, it not too far back. But slowed down. Are they going to come out with are they going to wait towards the end of their session to come out with that decision that affects Jack Smith's case? Yes. they're gonna make that toward the latter part of their session. So that's why it's gonna slow it down. But I'm looking April, May, June time frame. Yeah, it's gonna slow it down, you all. So we'll see. Again, this is how the energy is looking now. Of course, we'll be checking back with that in between, as things progress and as the Supreme Court, kicks off these sessions and see what happens. But right now, it's looking a little funky. They're gonna take care of the fake electors to the extent that they can figure out, do a little workaround, because they know long term they want to set things in place to make that law about obstruction a little less damaging to the far right and Donald Trump. Immunity, they're going to rule against it, but they're going to delay the decision enough to push Jack Smith's case out a little bit. Not too far, but a little bit. I'm seeing it more late spring, early summer. And mifepristone, still going to be available. They are going to do something to tweak the availability for any federal programs related to the drug. And Clarence Thomas is going to absolutely just be digging his heels and be a part of all of these decisions. All right, you all have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Please like and subscribe, by the way. Bye.